The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with their usual soft hiss. Delegates from 43 different worlds walked through, their various forms creating a colorful parade of scales, fur, and strange body shapes. Some floated on anti-gravity platforms, others walked on multiple legs, and a few glided across the polished floor like living shadows. Ambassador Kethvar from the Zalonian Empire entered first, as always. His tall reptilian form moved with practiced grace, the golden markings on his scaled skin catching the artificial sunlight that streamed through the chamber's crystal dome. He had been coming to these monthly meetings for 15 years now, and the routine never changed, but today felt different. Kethvar's sharp eyes scanned the massive circular chamber. Hundreds of seats arranged in perfect rings around the central speaking platform. Each species had their designated area, marked with symbols and colors that represented their home worlds. The Arcturus Federation's blue banners hung proudly. The Rylothian Collective's purple crystals glowed softly in their section. The trade guilds displayed their golden emblems. Yet something was wrong. The Earth Delegation's section stood empty. High Counselor Vexithara of the Arcturus Federation noticed it too. Her pale blue skin darkened slightly, a sign of concern among her people. She had worked closely with the human delegation for over 20 years, ever since first contact had brought Earth into the galactic community. Ambassador Jake Morrison always arrived early, usually chatting with his aide Lisa Carter about some new human discovery or innovation. Today, their chairs were empty. Council moderator Quintel called the session to order. His voice, translated through the universal communication system, reached every delegate in their own language. We gathered today to discuss trade agreements, territorial disputes, and the ongoing Kretal plague situation. However, I must note that our Earth delegation has not arrived. A ripple of whispers spread through the chamber. The Corvin representative clicked his mandibles in confusion. The hegemony's ambassador shifted her tentacles nervously. Nobody could remember the humans ever missing a council meeting. Perhaps they are delayed, suggested Trade Commissioner Zixandra. Her people, the Salathi, were known for their practical approach to problems. The Sol system reports indicate normal space traffic. Quintel activated his communication device. The holographic display showed Earth's contact information. He sent a priority message to Ambassador Morrison's office. The response came back immediately, but it was just an automated reply. This is the Earth Delegation Office. We are currently unable to respond to messages. Please submit all inquiries through proper diplomatic channels. Thank you for your patience. Strange. Morrison had never used automated responses before. He preferred personal communication, often joking that machines could never replace a friendly conversation. Try Dr. Alex Turner, suggested Vexithara. The human scientist had been scheduled to present his research on the plague that was killing thousands across the outer colonies. His work had already saved countless lives. His presentation was marked as priority. Another message. Another automated response. The concern in the chamber grew stronger. Species that had fought wars against each other for centuries found themselves united in confusion. Where were the humans? Kethvar leaned back in his chair thinking. 3 months ago, his government had received intelligence reports about human activities. Nothing alarming, just routine monitoring that all council members did on each other. The humans had been conducting more closed-door meetings than usual. Their military had increased training exercises. Their colonies had been running more supply shipments. But these things seemed normal. Every species went through periods of internal focus. Let me contact Captain Danny Rodriguez, offered Senator Volcarin from the Nexus Alliance. His patrol ship was supposed to dock at Station Gamma last week. The communication request bounced back. Ship not available. No current location data. Now the whispers turned to worried conversations. Ambassador Morrison was reliable. Dr. Turner was dedicated to his research. Captain Rodriguez had never missed a check-in. For all three to be unavailable at the same time seemed impossible. Perhaps there is an emergency on Earth, suggested the Corvin delegate. Natural disaster? Political crisis? Their government might be too busy to send representatives. Quintel accessed the public information networks. Earth's news channels showed normal activity. Cities functioning normally, space traffic moving as usual. No disasters, no wars. No obvious problems, yet the humans were nowhere to be found. The meeting continued, but everyone felt the absence. When the plague discussion began, the other species realized how much they had relied on human input. Dr. Turner's research methods were different from everyone else's. He approached problems in ways that often surprised alien scientists. His insights had led to breakthroughs that traditional research had missed. Without him, the discussion went in circles. The trade negotiations suffered too. Ambassador Morrison had a special talent for finding solutions that satisfied different species with completely different needs. His aide, Lisa Carter, understood alien psychology better than most aliens understood themselves. They could bridge gaps between cultures that had been enemies for generations. Without them, old conflicts surfaced. The Zolonians and Arcturus Federation began arguing over mining rights. The hegemony demanded better trade terms. The smaller species felt ignored and unheard. As the day wore on, more attempts to contact humans failed. Dr. Kelly Hayes, who ran the archaeological research on distant worlds, was unreachable. Engineer Pete Collins, who maintained critical space stations, had left only automated systems running. Captain Ryan Clark's merchant ship had filed a routine maintenance report, but nobody could raise the crew on communication channels. By the end of the session, 43 species sat in worried silence. Something was happening, but nobody could figure out what. Vexithera stood up slowly. Her blue skin had turned almost gray, a sign of deep concern. I propose we send a diplomatic vessel to the Sol system. Not as an invasion or threat, but as concerned allies checking on friends. The motion passed unanimously. None of them suspected the truth. None of them realized that 3 months earlier, human intelligence services had intercepted secret communications between several council members. Plans to reduce Earth's voting power. Schemes to turn human colonies into resource extraction sites controlled by alien corporations. Proposals to limit human expansion and keep them as junior partners in the galactic community. The humans had discovered that some of their closest allies were plotting against them. But instead of confronting the conspiracy directly, humanity had chosen a different path. A quiet path, a path that would teach the galaxy exactly what they were about to lose. The empty chairs in the council chamber were just the beginning. Mining Station Omega-7 orbited a dead planet rich in rare metals. The station processed tons of valuable ore every day, sending it to dozens of worlds across the galaxy. For 8 years, Security Chief Amy Brooks had kept the peace among the mixed crew of humans, Zolonians, Rylothians, and other species. Amy was good at her job. Really good. She understood alien psychology and could spot trouble before fights broke out. The station's crime rate was the lowest in the sector, and productivity stayed high because workers felt safe. So when Amy submitted her resignation, Station Commander Vexicol was shocked. Family obligations, Amy explained, her face calm and professional. My sister back on Earth needs help with our parents. They're getting older and she can't handle everything alone. Vexicol's tentacles drooped with disappointment. His species, the Krathari, valued family loyalty, so he understood. But finding a replacement for Amy would be nearly impossible. She had trained the security team, established protocols, and built relationships that took years to develop. When will you leave? He asked. 2 weeks. I want to make sure my replacement is properly trained. Amy had already chosen her successor, a capable Zolonian named Krixtar, who had worked under her for 3 years. She spent the next 14 days teaching him everything she knew. How to read the mood of different species, which workers needed gentle guidance and which needed firm rules. How to prevent problems instead of just solving them. On her last day, the entire station gathered to say goodbye. Workers from a dozen species brought gifts and shared stories about how Amy had helped them. Some of the tougher miners had tears in their eyes. Amy smiled, thanked everyone, and boarded a transport to Earth. Nobody suspected that her resignation was part of something larger. 3,000 light-years away, engineer Pete Collins finished his final shift on the Nexus Trade Hub. The massive space station served as a meeting point for merchants, diplomats, and travelers from across the galaxy. Pete had designed most of the station's key systems, including the power grid that kept everything running smoothly. Pete was a problem solver. When other engineers said something couldn't be done, Pete found a way. He had saved the station from 3 major disasters and improved efficiency by 40% during his 5-year assignment. His resignation surprised nobody, though. Pete had been talking about career opportunities back on Earth for months. The new quantum research facilities offered chances to work on cutting-edge technology. Any ambitious engineer would want to return home for that. "I'll miss working with you," said Chief Administrator Kelvana, a tall, graceful being from the Arcturus Federation. "Your innovations have made this station the most efficient in the sector." Pete had trained his replacement well, a brilliant Arcturus engineer named Talvex, who understood the systems almost as well as Pete did. The handover went smoothly. All documentation was updated. All procedures were clearly explained. On his last day, Pete walked through the station one final time. He checked every system, ran every test, and made sure everything worked perfectly. He left behind detailed manuals and troubleshooting, guides that would help the next engineer for years. Then he quietly boarded a ship bound for Earth. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Dr. Kelly Hayes completed her archaeological project on Theron III, a world covered in ancient ruins. Her team had spent 2 years uncovering artifacts that revealed the history of a long-dead civilization. The work was important. It helped other species understand how advanced civilizations could fall and how to avoid similar mistakes. Kelly published her complete findings in the Galactic Archaeological Journal. Every detail, every theory, every piece of evidence. She made sure the scientific community had everything they needed to continue the work. Then she applied for a transfer back to Earth. "New opportunities," she told her alien colleagues. "Humanity is starting some exciting projects in our home system." Her replacement, a respected Corvin scientist named Dr. Zekmar, had worked with Kelly for months. The transition was smooth and professional. Captain Ryan Clark commanded the merchant vessel Star Wanderer, one of the most reliable cargo ships in the galaxy. His crew had delivered supplies to remote colonies, carried emergency medical equipment to disaster zones, and transported rare materials between industrial worlds. Ryan's final mission was typical of his career, delivering critical medical supplies to a Rylothian colony suffering from atmospheric poisoning. Industrial accidents had contaminated their air, and thousands were getting sick. The supplies Ryan carried would save lives. His crew worked with their usual efficiency. Navigator Chloe Adams plotted the fastest safe course through dangerous space. Chief Engineer Matt Stone kept the engines running at peak performance despite the urgency of their mission. They arrived ahead of schedule and stayed to help unload the cargo. The Rylothian colonists gathered to thank them. Children who would live because of the medicine touched Ryan's hands with their small crystalline fingers. Adults who had feared for their families smiled with relief. "You have saved our world," said Colony Administrator Lirthana. "How can we repay such kindness?" "Just stay healthy," Ryan replied. "That's payment enough." 3 days later, Ryan filed his ship's decommission papers. The Star Wanderer would be sold to a hegemony trading company. Ryan and his crew were returning to Earth for new assignments. The pattern was everywhere, but nobody noticed it yet. Human departures seemed natural and unconnected. People left jobs all the time. Career opportunities, family obligations, personal interests. These were normal reasons for changing assignments. What alien administrators didn't know was that every human departure had been carefully planned. Intelligence networks that had operated in secret for decades coordinated the timing. Each person left only after training their replacement and completing their current projects. No critical work was abandoned. No systems were left vulnerable. On Earth, massive preparations were underway. Construction Chief Tony Walsh oversaw projects that officially didn't exist. New shipyards beyond Pluto built vessels using designs that pushed the boundaries of known technology. Admiral Susan Parker coordinated the return of human ships and personnel using codes, hidden in routine maintenance schedules. The brightest human minds worked around the clock. Dr. Rachel Moore and her team developed new, faster-than-light communication systems that didn't rely on galactic networks. Engineer Kevin Price designed manufacturing systems that could produce everything humanity needed without importing alien materials. They knew the other species would eventually notice the pattern. Human intelligence estimated they had maybe 6 months before someone connected the dots. By then it would be too late. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. No dramatic announcements, no angry confrontations, no threats or demands. Humanity would simply step back from galactic civilization and let the other species figure out what they had lost. Some humans felt sad about leaving friends and colleagues behind. Amy Brooks had genuinely cared about the mixed crew on Omega-7. Pete Collins had enjoyed working with engineers from other species. Dr. Kelly Hayes had learned fascinating things from alien scientists. But they had seen the intercepted communications. They knew about the conspiracy to reduce humanity to second-class status in their own galaxy. Trust, once broken, was not easily repaired, so they left quietly, professionally, and completely. The galaxy was about to learn what life was like without humans. Trade Commissioner Zixandra stared at her computer screen in confusion. 3 months had passed since the last human merchant had submitted a bid for shipping contracts. At first she thought it was just a temporary slowdown. Maybe Earth companies were reorganizing their business structures or focusing on other sectors. But now her screen showed something that made no sense. 0 active contracts with human shipping companies, 0 pending applications from human merchants, 0 communication from any human trade representative. Zixandra had been managing interstellar commerce for the hegemony for 12 years. Human merchants were usually the most reliable in the galaxy. They delivered on time, handled fragile cargo with care, and charged fair prices. Many alien companies specifically requested human shipping because of their excellent reputation. Now they were just gone. She tried contacting Captain Ryan Clark, whose Star Wanderer had carried sensitive medical supplies for years. His company's files showed business discontinued. She reached out to the Henderson Freight Corporation, which had moved industrial equipment across 3 sectors. Their offices were closed with a simple message about restructuring operations. Every human trading company had vanished. This makes no sense, Zixandra muttered to herself. Her species, the Scylathi, were logical beings who solved problems through careful analysis. But this problem defied logic. She decided to contact her colleague in the Arcturus Federation. Trade Administrator Felnara had worked with human companies even longer than Zixandra had. Have you noticed anything strange about human merchants lately? Zixandra asked during their video call. Felnara's blue skin darkened, a sign of concern among her people. I was about to ask you the same question. They've all disappeared from our shipping networks. Every single company has closed or transferred their contracts to other species. When did this start? About 4 months ago, I think. But it happened gradually, a few companies at a time. I didn't realize the scope until this week. 4 months. That was right around the time humans had stopped attending council meetings. Station Commander. Volcaran was having similar realizations on Deep Space Station Gamma-7. The station served as a research facility and refueling stop for ships exploring the galactic rim. For 6 years, the human research team led by Dr. Janet Pierce had conducted experiments that pushed the boundaries of physics and biology. Dr. Pierce had been brilliant. Her team's work on quantum field manipulation had led to improvements in faster-than-light travel. Their biological studies had helped develop medicines that worked across multiple alien species. The station's reputation as a cutting-edge research facility was largely built on human innovations. Now the human section of the lab was empty. Volcaran walked through the abandoned research areas, his multiple eyes taking in the details. Everything was perfectly organized. All equipment was properly stored. Computer files were neatly archived with detailed explanations of ongoing projects. Dr. Pierce had even left training materials for whoever took over her work. But she was gone. Her entire team had accepted transfers to other positions over the past few months. Each departure had seemed normal at the time. Career advancement, family reasons, new opportunities. Only now did Volcaran see the pattern. He tried to contact Dr. Pierce directly. The response was another automated message referring him to proper channels. The pattern was everywhere, once you knew to look for it. Medical Administrator Kirathala on Hospital Ship Mercy discovered that every human doctor and nurse had transferred to other assignments. Dr. Nathan Price, who had developed new surgical techniques for treating multiple species, was gone. Nurse Holly Turner, whose bedside manner had comforted patients from dozens of worlds, had left for opportunities closer to home. The human medical staff had been replaced by qualified aliens, but something felt different. Human doctors approached problems in unique ways. They asked questions that other species didn't think to ask. They found solutions that seemed obvious only after humans pointed them out. Without them, medical research had slowed noticeably. Security reports painted a similar picture. Human peacekeepers, investigators, and military advisors had quietly disappeared from posts across the galaxy. Captain Jack Miller, who had solved 3 major criminal cases in the Vega system, was gone. Detective Lisa Foster, whose understanding of alien psychology had helped prevent 2 wars, had returned to Earth for family reasons. The crime rate in areas formerly patrolled by humans had increased by 60%. The first species to officially acknowledge the pattern was the Rylothian Collective. Their government published a report titled The Human Exodus: Implications for Galactic Stability. The report documented the disappearance of humans from key positions across multiple sectors. While individual departures appeared routine, the report stated, the collective effect represents a significant reduction in human participation in galactic civilization. We estimate that over 80% of humans working outside the Sol system have returned to Earth or disappeared entirely. The report sent shockwaves through the Council. High Counselor Vexthara called an emergency session. Representatives from 37 species gathered to discuss the crisis. The chamber felt different without human delegates, less cooperative, more tense. We need to understand what has happened, Vexthara announced. Are humans experiencing some internal crisis? Have they been threatened by an unknown enemy? Or is this a deliberate withdrawal from galactic society? Senator Kelthera of the Arcturus Federation stood to speak. I propose we send diplomatic vessels to the Sol system immediately. We need direct contact with Earth's government. Agreed, said Ambassador Kethvar of the Zolonian Empire. For once, the old enemies found themselves on the same side. This situation threatens the stability of our entire civilization. The motion passed unanimously. 3 days later, a joint fleet of diplomatic ships approached Earth. The fleet included representatives from 12 major species, all hoping to understand what had happened to humanity. What they found confused them even more. Earth looked normal from space. Cities glowed with lights, orbital stations bustled with activity. Ships moved between the planets of the Sol system in regular patterns. Everything appeared peaceful and prosperous. But when the diplomatic fleet tried to make contact, they received only automated responses. This is Earth traffic control. Welcome to the Sol system. Please state your business and diplomatic credentials. All official visits must be scheduled through proper channels. Thank you for your cooperation. Fleet Commander Zekval tried direct communication with Earth's government. Another automated response. The Earth Administrative Council is currently reviewing diplomatic policies. Please submit all requests through established interstellar protocols. We appreciate your patience during this transition period. Transition period? Zekval asked his staff. What kind of transition? They tried contacting specific humans they had worked with before. Ambassador Jake Morrison's office was closed for administrative review. Dr. Alex Turner's research facility was temporarily unavailable for external communication. Captain Danny Rodriguez's military unit was conducting extended training exercises. Every attempt at contact met with polite, professional automated responses that said nothing while seeming to say everything. The diplomatic fleet spent 3 days in the Sol system, trying every form of communication they could think of. They broadcast on emergency frequencies. They sent messages in dozens of languages. They even tried primitive radio signals. The responses were always the same, polite automation referring them to proper channels that led nowhere. On the 4th day, something changed. A small human ship approached the diplomatic fleet. It was sleek and elegant, with design features that none of the aliens had seen before. The technology looked advanced beyond anything in their databases. This is Captain Lisa Reynolds of the Earth vessel New Horizon, came the transmission. We acknowledge your presence in our system. Please be aware that Sol system is currently restricted to Earth traffic only. We request that you depart within 24 hours. Fleet Commander Zekval tried to respond, to ask questions, to demand explanations. The human ship simply vanished, not cloaked. The aliens had sensors that could detect cloaked vessels. Not faster than light. Their instruments would have tracked the jump signature. The ship simply disappeared as if it had never existed. The alien fleet returned to Council space with more questions than answers. Humanity was still there, but they were no longer part of galactic civilization. They had withdrawn completely, taking their knowledge, their skills, and their unique perspective with them. The galaxy was starting to realize what that meant. The first crisis hit the Nexus Trade Hub exactly 6 months after engineer Pete Collins had left for Earth. The main power grid failed at 347 station time. Emergency power kicked in immediately, but it could only support critical life support systems. Docking bays went dark, manufacturing facilities shut down. The massive hydroponic gardens that fed 30,000 residents began dying without proper environmental controls. Chief Administrator Kelvana rushed to the engineering section, her blue skin pale with stress. Talvex, Pete's replacement, was already working frantically at the main control panel. "What happened?" Kelvana demanded. "Power surge in the quantum core," Talvex replied, his translator making his voice sound mechanical. "The safety system's activated, but now I can't bring the main grid back online. Use the emergency restart procedures." I tried. "The system won't accept the restart commands. There's something wrong with the quantum field alignment, but I can't figure out what." Talvex was a good engineer, one of the best from the Arcturus Federation. But Pete Collins had designed these systems using human engineering principles that other species found difficult to understand. The documentation Pete had left behind was detailed, but it couldn't replace years of experience and intuitive problem-solving. Hours passed. The station's population grew increasingly worried as systems failed one by one. The water recycling plant stopped working. Air circulation slowed to dangerous levels. Food preservation units began warming up, threatening to spoil supplies that fed thousands of people. "Contact Earth," Kelvana ordered desperately. "See if Pete Collins can help us remotely." The communication officer tried every channel, every frequency, every protocol. All they received were automated responses directing them to submit requests through proper diplomatic channels. By the 18th hour, the situation had become critical. Life support systems were failing. Emergency evacuation procedures were being prepared. The Nexus Trade Hub, which had operated flawlessly for 15 years, was dying. Then Talvex found something in Pete's personal files, a handwritten note tucked into the documentation for the quantum core. "If the quantum field alignment fails," the note read, "don't try to restart the system immediately. Let it cycle completely down for 30 minutes. Then use the manual reset sequence I've programmed into Maintenance Terminal 7 Alpha. The computer will resist this procedure because it seems dangerous, but trust the process." Pete Talvex followed Pete's instructions exactly. 30 minutes after the complete shutdown, he accessed the hidden terminal and ran Pete's manual reset sequence. The quantum core hummed back to life and power flowed through the station again. The crisis was over, but the lesson was clear. Human engineers thought differently. They understood systems in ways that other species missed. Pete had anticipated this exact failure and prepared a solution that saved 30,000 lives. Similar crises erupted across the galaxy. On mining station Omega-7, ethnic tensions exploded into violence 3 weeks after Security Chief Amy Brooks departed. The Zolonian and Rylothian workers, who had coexisted peacefully for years under Amy's guidance, began fighting over work assignments and cultural differences. Crickstar, Amy's replacement, was a capable security officer, but he lacked her intuitive understanding of cross-species psychology. Amy had somehow known when tensions were building and diffused conflicts before they started. She understood the subtle signs that indicated brewing trouble between different alien cultures. Without her insight, minor disagreements escalated into major confrontations. Productivity dropped by 40% as workers spent more time arguing than mining. Station Commander Vexcol had to request military assistance to restore order. The violence finally stopped, but trust between the species never fully recovered. Medical research facilities faced even worse problems. The Cretal plague, which Dr. Alex Turner had been studying, mutated into a more dangerous form. The virus spread to 6 new worlds before alien scientists could develop an effective response. Dr. Turner's research had been thorough, but his unique approach to biological systems was irreplaceable. Human doctors seemed to understand how diseases evolved and spread in ways that other species found mysterious. They asked different questions and made connections that others missed. Without human medical researchers, plague response time increased from weeks to months. Thousands died who might have lived if Dr. Turner and his colleagues had been available. The security situation deteriorated rapidly. Crime rates increased across the galaxy, as human peacekeepers and investigators were no longer available. The Korthak Syndicate, a criminal organization that had been kept in check by human-led security forces, began expanding their operations aggressively. Captain Jack Miller had been their worst nightmare, a human investigator who understood criminal psychology and could predict their moves. Detective Lisa Foster had built networks of informants across multiple species, giving law enforcement eyes and ears everywhere. Now the criminals operated with impunity. Piracy increased by 300% in the first year after human security forces withdrew. Trade routes that had been safe for decades became dangerous. Merchants began hiring expensive private protection or avoiding certain areas entirely. The economic impact spread like ripples through still water. Manufacturing efficiency dropped without human supervisors who had streamlined production processes. Innovation slowed without human scientists who approached problems from unexpected angles. Diplomatic negotiations stalled without human mediators who could find common ground between hostile species. Trade Commissioner Zixandra found herself dealing with supply shortages for the first time in her career. Human shipping companies had carried nearly 30% of all interstellar cargo. Other species tried to fill the gap, but they lacked the efficiency and reliability that humans had provided. Shipping costs increased by 60%. Delivery times doubled. Critical supplies were delayed, sometimes for months. Colonies that depended on regular shipments began rationing food and medicine. The political consequences were even more severe. Senator Kelthara of the Arcturus Federation stood before the emergency council session, her normally composed demeanor cracking under stress. The hegemony is demanding compensation for trade losses. The Zilonian Empire refuses to honor agreements negotiated by human mediators. 3 minor species have withdrawn from the council entirely. The situation is unsustainable, agreed Ambassador Kethvar of the Zilonian Empire. Our economies are failing. Our security is compromised. Our entire civilization is coming apart without human participation. High Counselor Vexithera looked around the chamber. Many seats were empty now, not just the human delegation, but representatives from species that had lost confidence in the Council's ability to maintain stability. We must contact Earth directly, she announced. Send our most senior diplomats. Offer whatever concessions are necessary to bring humanity back. The motion passed, but privately. Many delegates wondered if it was already too late. Intelligence reports painted an even more disturbing picture. Long-range sensors had detected massive human constructions beyond the galactic rim. Ships of unprecedented size and capability moved through deep space, apparently engaged in projects that no one could understand. Captain Lisa Reynolds and her crew aboard the New Horizon had been spotted by multiple alien vessels, but every attempt at contact had failed. The humans seemed to be operating on a scale and with technology that surpassed anything the Council species possessed. The Rylothian Collective's intelligence service published a classified report that leaked to other governments within days. Human technological development appears to have accelerated dramatically since their withdrawal from galactic society. We estimate their current capabilities exceed our own by at least 50 years, possibly more. The species that had conspired to reduce humanity to junior status in the galaxy now faced a terrifying possibility that humanity had moved far beyond needing galactic civilization at all. In the depths of space, automated human beacons continued broadcasting their simple message. Humanity wishes all species peace and prosperity. We choose our own path among the stars. The galaxy was learning that losing humanity's participation meant losing much more than they had ever realized. The quiet, reliable humans had been the foundation that held their civilization together. Now the foundation was gone, and everything was crumbling. 2 years after humanity's silent departure, the Galactic Council chamber looked like a ghost town. Half the seats sat empty, their former occupants having withdrawn from an organization that no longer served their needs. The remaining delegates gathered in small clusters, arguing in hushed voices about problems that seemed to have no solutions. Council moderator Quintel called the session to order, but his voice lacked the authority it once carried. The universal translation system crackled with static, another system that required human maintenance expertise to function properly. Today we address the ongoing economic crisis, Quintel announced wearily. Production continues to decline across all sectors. The hegemony reports manufacturing efficiency at 60% of pre-Exodus levels. The Arcturus Federation has requested emergency food shipments for 3 colonies. The Zolonian Empire faces massive unemployment as their automated systems fail without human technical support. The statistics were brutal, but everyone already knew them. What they didn't know was how to fix anything. High Counselor Vexithara stood slowly. She had aged visibly in the past 2 years, her blue skin now pale and lined with stress. The diplomatic mission to Earth returned yesterday. I regret to report another failure. Groans echoed through the chamber. This was the 7th diplomatic mission to fail in 18 months. What happened this time? Asked Senator Volcarin. The same as before. Automated responses directing us to submit requests through proper channels. No direct contact with any human officials. No acknowledgement of our offers or apologies. Ambassador Kethvar's claws scraped against his chair. The proud Zolonian had lost most of his arrogance over the past 2 years, as his empire's economy crumbled without human innovations. Did you see any evidence of their current activities? The Sol system appears prosperous and peaceful, Vexithara replied. We detected massive space constructions beyond Neptune, structures larger than anything we've ever built. But when our ships approached for a closer look, they encountered some kind of barrier. Our sensors simply stopped working. A defensive shield? Asked Trade Commissioner Zixandra. We don't know. Our instruments detected nothing. No energy readings, no physical barriers, no hostile actions. Our ships could move freely until they reached a certain distance from human construction sites. Then their systems would malfunction. It was as if the technology itself refused to cooperate with us. The implications sent chills through the assembled delegates. Humanity had developed technology so advanced that alien instruments couldn't even understand it. Dr. Kira Powell, humanity's former science liaison, had been irreplaceable in her role as translator between human and alien research methods. Her departure had crippled scientific cooperation between species. Research projects that had taken months now required years. Breakthrough discoveries had slowed to a trickle. The medical situation was even worse. The Kretal plague had evolved into 6 different variants, each deadlier than the last. Without human medical researchers like Dr. Steve Carter and Dr. Nathan Price, alien scientists struggled to keep up with the mutations. Entire colonies had been quarantined. Millions had died from diseases that human doctors might have stopped. The situation on Kepler 442b has become critical, reported Medical Administrator Kirthala. The plague variant there attacks neural systems in ways we don't understand. Our best medical minds are baffled. What about the research data humans left behind? Asked Senator Kelthera. We've studied it extensively. The information is detailed and helpful, but it's not enough. Human medical researchers approached problems differently. They made intuitive leaps that our scientists can't replicate. Without their insights, we're always one step behind these evolving diseases. The security briefing was equally grim. The Korthax Syndicate now controlled shipping routes through 12 star systems. Piracy had become so common that merchant vessels traveled in armed convoys. The crime rate had tripled in areas formerly patrolled by human peacekeepers. Captain Jack Miller could have solved the Vega system crisis in weeks, lamented Security Coordinator Vexcol. His replacement has been working on the same case for 8 months with no progress. Human investigators understood criminal psychology in ways we've never mastered, added Intelligence Director Kralthex. They could predict criminal behavior, infiltrate organizations, and solve complex cases that baffle our best agents. The exploration program had virtually stopped. Human scouts like Commander Greg Adams had opened 17 new star systems in the past decade, always finding safe routes through dangerous regions and establishing peaceful contact with new species. Their bold approach to unknown dangers had expanded the Council's territory and knowledge. Now alien exploration teams moved cautiously, avoiding risks that humans would have handled easily. 3 promising star systems remained unexplored because no one could figure out how to navigate the gravitational anomalies that humans had routinely solved. We've become afraid of our own galaxy, admitted Exploration Chief Talvex. Without human scouts showing us the way, we stick to known routes and familiar territories. The economic data painted the bleakest picture of all. Interstellar trade had declined by 40%. Innovation had slowed dramatically without human engineers and scientists. Manufacturing efficiency continued dropping as human-designed systems failed without proper maintenance. The Henderson industrial sector has shut down completely, reported economic analyst Mercala. The automated systems require human programming knowledge that we don't possess. 12,000 workers are unemployed. Can't we reverse engineer the systems? Asked Senator Volkaren. We've tried. Human engineering follows principles that seem obvious once explained, but which we struggle to discover independently. Their solutions are elegant and efficient in ways that our species rarely achieve. The political situation had deteriorated beyond repair. The conspiracy to reduce human influence had backfired catastrophically. The Zolonian Empire, one of the primary architects of the anti-human plot, now faced economic collapse and internal rebellion. 3 of their colony worlds had declared independence rather than suffer continued hardship. The hegemony had lost 2 member species who blamed them for driving humanity away. The Arcturus Federation dealt with massive protests as their citizens demanded the return of human medical researchers to combat the ongoing plague outbreaks. Ironically, observed Ambassador Kethvar bitterly, humanity now has more influence over our civilization than they ever did as council members. Their absence shapes our every decision. The final blow came during the session's closing remarks. Long-range sensors had detected massive human vessels operating in the Andromeda Galaxy. Ships the size of small moons using technology that made faster-than-light travel look primitive. They've reached another galaxy, whispered Trade Commissioner Zixandra. While we struggle to maintain what we have, they're exploring new frontiers. The message was clear. Humanity had moved far beyond needing the Galactic Council. They were expanding into realms that other species couldn't even imagine reaching. Council Moderator Quintel stood for the final announcement. The Corvin Collective has formally withdrawn from the Council, citing our inability to maintain basic security and economic stability. That brings our total membership to 27 species, down from 43 before the human exodus. As delegates filed out of the chamber, many wondered if this would be the last council session. The grand alliance that had united dozens of civilizations was dying, fractured by the loss of the one species that had made cooperation possible. The human seats remained empty, but their absence filled the room. Every failed negotiation, every unsolved crisis, every economic disaster could be traced back to the loss of human mediation, innovation, and problem-solving. In the depths of space, the automated beacons continued their broadcasts. Humanity wishes all species peace and prosperity. We choose our own path among the stars. The galaxy had learned too late that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or military might, but their unique ability to bring out the best in other species. They had been the bridge between civilizations, the mediators who found common ground, the innovators who solved impossible problems. Now they were gone, leaving behind a broken council and a galaxy that finally understood what it had lost. The conspirators had gotten exactly what they wanted: independence from human influence. The price had been higher than anyone could have imagined. Humanity had slipped away in silence, and the galaxy would never be the same.